on the march since Antiquity. One late evening in September 1974, writer A.C. McKerracher decided to take a break from work and go out for some fresh air. McKerracher and his family had recently moved into a new residential property on a hill overlooking the Scottish town of Dunblane, Perthshire. It was a clear, frosty night, and the township below was veiled in fog. All of a sudden, the silence was disturbed by a quake like that of a crowd of people walking through the fields. McKerracher, certain that it was a consequence of overwork, decided to go back inside. But 20 minutes later, driven by curiosity, he went out again and found that the noises were louder and closer than ever. This time they gave the impression that a mighty legion was marching from the other side of the houses opposite. I remained as if rooted to the spot as that unreal, unseen regiment passed by, he recalled. The marchers must have been thousands because the noise continued for quite some time. By now, fearing that he had lost the good of his intellect, he decided to go back into the house and to go straight to bed. But a week later, while visiting an older couple living nearby, he heard a strange story. A week earlier, in the early hours of the night, the couple told him their dog and cat had suddenly woken up and jumped up like lightning with their fur standing upright on their backs. For about 20 minutes, they seemed to be staring at something across the living room. They looked terrified. McKerracher had said nothing about his experience, but the inexplicable animal behavior had occurred at exactly the same time he had heard the invisible legion a week earlier. He looked for an explanation and found that anciently a Roman road headed north, immediately behind the houses across the street. Also, in 117 AD, the Spanish Legion, a 4,000-man force of elite troops, had been sent from Spain to that area of Scotland to crush a tribal revolt. The legion was known as the Unfortunate Ninth, because in AD 60 some of its soldiers had whipped Boadicea, queen of the British Iceni tribe, and raped her daughters. Boadicea had cursed those men forever and later led a revolt that inflicted severe losses on the IX. The legion was reconstituted, but it was never the same. Its march over Scotland came to a mysterious halt. It vanished without a trace shortly after passing through what centuries later would be Dunblane. In October 1984, McKerracher, who no longer heard the noise and later moved to the old part of Dunblane, gave a lecture on local history at a women's club. At the end of the lecture, Cecilia Moore, a member of the circle, went to the podium and declared that perhaps she too had heard the passage of a ghostly Roman army. It was learned that he had lived across the street from where the writer had had his previous residence. "I was letting the cat out one evening when I heard a noise like an army coming through my backyard," he testified. The event, McKerracher determined, had happened on the same night and at the same time as his experience. "I am convinced," he wrote, "that what Mrs. Moore and I heard, and what my neighbor's animals saw, was the passage of a cursed legion, marching to its dreadful and unknown fate nearly 2,000 years ago.